Hello, dear soul, and welcome to the Light Bears Library. In today's journal entry, I want to talk about how to look at opposing viewpoints, how to negotiate other people's views, other people's values, other people's ideas and beliefs. Because I think in our world today, there's such a division and a divide and really lots of emotions involved in, sides of things, right? And I think that that's not healthy for any of us, right? That heightened emotion within us. It's not good for our physical bodies. It's not good for our minds to be in that state. So I think we need to kind of look at some ways that we can start engaging with other ideas that we may think are wrong, or quote unquote that we may think are bad, quote unquote evil, but quote unquote whatever term we want, you want to put on it. I think it's still important, even if you think the idea is wrong, it's important to explore that other side. I think because it helps us to understand one another, and understanding is, I often talk about Thich Nhat Hanh has the quote of love is understanding. So we can't love one another if we don't understand one another. And I think that's what our world is really lacking, is understanding, is love. And that's the true meaning of love, is understanding. So I'd like to kind of explore my thoughts on how we can start to explore ideas other than the ones that we think are right. And I think it starts by acknowledging that there is no unbiased opinion or unbiased story, unbiased, whatever. We all are biased, right? We are all biased by where we are born, who our parents were, how we grew up, what kind of education we got, what our life experiences are, what personality type we are. I've talked about this before on this channel. It's like we all have different ways of perceiving the world. We have different lenses of perception and different ways of making judgments or making decisions about things. So, we all have very different ways of seeing the world. And that means that there's going to be people that think differently from us or feel differently from us. And it doesn't make other people wrong, and I think we need to start just reflecting on this and taking deep breaths, right? And lowering the emotional energy that is happening in today's world, to just find that calm, that breathing. But it's one thing to just say, breathe and be calm, but we need to start engaging with other ideas that we don't agree with, to understand that person that holds those beliefs, because that is love. That is understanding is love. So I think a good question to ask ourselves is, why do I believe the things that I believe? Why do I think the things that I think? Why do I, feel the way that I feel? And if we start to explore that question, it will go back to what I was just saying about, well, I probably think and believe those things because of, all the things I said before, where I'm born, where we were born, whatever, all those things. So, trying to just take that idea on. So I think that, we need to start putting ourselves in other people's shoes. And let's say we start with an idea that we think that we don't necessarily agree with, but we don't have strong emotional attachment or strong emotional like repulsion by an idea, right? There are ideas that we may think are totally wrong, should be like wiped out, like it's like, okay, I'm not saying we necessarily engage with those ideas yet, right? We've got to grow up in our ability to engage with that kind of stuff without the emotions coming in. So we need to take an idea that, you maybe not attached one way or another to. We need to practice how to look at all sides of something. And we don't want to be doing that with something that's emotional, right? We want to take the emotions out of the exercise, I guess, is what we're trying to do, right? So take an idea that, doesn't have the emotion. And then, put yourself in the shoes of the people that believe that idea, right? Really understand why they believe that. What is the evidence that they're basing that idea on? Look into the evidence that they say, it's and the facts and dig into that. Is like, does that evidence actually exist? Is it real? Just dig into it. Look at who are the people that are talking about this idea or thinking about this idea, believing this idea, and what kinds of life experiences have they had? Can you find a reason for that, and then try and understand that experience. Put yourself in their shoes, because if if we had the same life experience, if we were born as them, we would think like them, because that's how it works. We think and believe what we do because of how we were born, our education, our life experiences, our personality type, right? The lens that we have. So if we were born as someone else, we would think and believe what someone else does. It's just the way it goes. So, and then be open and be humble. I think being humble is about, being open to learning and being wrong. We could be wrong. We could have not taken into account the evidence that other person has about that idea or that thought that they have. And it's like, oh, interesting. Like, I've learned something new about the world. Like, be curious. Be curious. Like, why does someone believe that? We, instead of just dismissing it as like, oh, they're stupid, or they're, they don't know what they're talking about. Like, instead of throwing words, like, just negating people for what they believe. It's like, let's understand. It's an exercise, right? Instead of calling them names, which is how we do it, is like, if we don't have an argument for things, just call them names. It's like, that's not helpful. That's not a helpful way of living in the world, right? We don't like being called names, so it's not nice to call other people names. Let's try and understand, right? So, I think that we also just need to be brave, need to be courageous. I think we can, we can explore ideas that we feel are perhaps a little threatening to us. And they're threatening because maybe we don't understand them. Maybe if we understood them, they wouldn't be threatening. We might not agree with them. We might disagree with how they come up with the idea, or we might say, well, your evidence isn't taking into account this other evidence over here. And it wouldn't actually be threatening and emotional anymore. It would just be more of a a way of thinking. And I think we have to trust ourselves, trust our brains to be able to work things through, ask questions, and sort of exploring other people's ideas or thoughts or beliefs doesn't mean that we need to, in the end, think what they think, believe what they believe. It's like we don't need to be threatened with that. We're just, I had this idea that we can just, kind of, if we're thinking about it as exploring, right? Exploring other ideas, we could think about it as travel, where we go and we explore another country of ideas, right? Think of the most foreign country you can in your mind, where you would think it's totally foreign. The language is foreign, the food is foreign, their customs and dress and everything is foreign. It's kind of like, whoa, right? Right. We don't need to be threatened by it. It's just, we could be excited about what we could learn, what we could, take from it. But it doesn't mean we need to go and live in that foreign land, right? It doesn't. We'll probably end up taking some little nuggets home with us, from visiting that culture. It's like, ooh, I really liked how they, did this every morning. And so I'm going to do that every morning when I get home to my country and my own life. And so let's explore other beliefs and ideas like we would explore going to a foreign country. Now, I'm saying that we should explore I'm saying we should explore an idea that is not as threatening or as like different from us as, so maybe if we live in Canada like I do, then it's maybe like, okay, well, how would it be to go to England, right? It's like they still speak the same language, they share the similar culture, but, it's like exploring that idea versus, me going and exploring, I don't know, Mongolia maybe. That would be completely foreign to me. And, so I think let's do that. And treat it like travel, treat it like going to a new land, and we don't have to stay there. We can just, pretend. And I think that would maybe help us to have a little bit of emotional space from it and not have an immediate, emotional reaction to things. So that is kind of how I'm looking at things right now, how to explore different sides of an idea, sides of an argument, and starting with things that are more similar to your own thoughts and ideas, and expanding from there to things that are more challenging to you and your beliefs. And I've done this over the last 5 years. I've really explored things that are at the extreme from what I believe. And it has been life-changing. It's been such a wonderful way of growing as a human being, growing in understanding, growing in love, growing in respect for other humans, and growing in wonder that we live in an incredible place where we have so many different ideas and beliefs, and it's beautiful. We need to start seeing the beauty in and allowing for that diversity and allowing for that the differences that exist and then finding the commonalities, right? That I think it's so important too, is like to acknowledge differences, to see where people are coming from, but then also like a Venn diagram, finding those places where our ideas and beliefs overlap in some way, shape, or form to other people's ideas and beliefs, because there is always some overlap somewhere, some way of finding commonality that unites us and unifies us. So, you can think about it maybe as like a flower, and at the center we're all connected to the center of the flower, and then each of us are like these petals, right? So I think it's important to continue to find those commonalities with our neighbors, with those in our community, with people, in our country, in our culture, and really trying to understand one another and love one another. And that's how we're going to get through this. I don't care what side, quote unquote, you're on of any which one topic. The anger and the vitriol and the whatever, it's not helpful. I did a history degree, right? For better or worse, all the but it's like, if you read history, you can know that this kind of vibe that's going on right now doesn't lead to good places. So we each have a responsibility to do this in our own lives for the good of everyone. What we each do, we have the responsibility to be the change we wish to be in the world, to see in the world. And this is a small way that we can start to do that and be less threatened, right? Less angry, less emotional by every which idea and belief that's out there. It's like, it's good for us as individuals to do this work, because we would also be much healthier as a whole human. So be brave, be bold, be wondrous at the diversity, explore, and just it's a beautiful world. We live in a beautiful world, and people are beautiful, and we just need to remember that for ourselves, because that's that. So if this has been helpful to you, probably challenging maybe, but helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you're brave, leave me a little comment. I will delete anybody who is mean on that will respond to comments. I know that's a thing, like people are not commenting, and I know I haven't, because they feel they don't want to be like torn down by other people or get trolled or whatever. And it's like, that's awful. We need to be able to have conversations and share our thoughts, and it's like, oh well, I see it differently, because you might have a totally different way of exploring different thoughts, and I'd love to hear that, because I know I just have my own way of giving options, but there's many different ways. And and please subscribe to the Light Bears Library if you like, just trying our best to be loving humans in this world. Okay, well, I wish you many blessings. Signing off for now. XOXO, Kate.